And I also welcome Dr. John Paul Anbu, and also welcome Dr. Sriram. He is going to moderate this session. So Dr. Sriram is basically assistant professor at he is a teaching fraternity at Department of Library and Information Science, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. He has been a Commonwealth Professional Fellow at University of East London, and he is very smart in doing a lot of content development activities. So tomorrow we are going to again have his session on some sort of activity on his expertise as well. So let us welcome both the dignitaries on the dais, and I request Dr. Sriram to proceed ahead with this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I welcome everyone in AICTE ATAL sponsored faculty development workshop on advances in research support services in academic and research library. And today we have a seasoned, a well-known personality speaker with us, who is having experience on managing libraries and electronic resource management. So we have a very renowned speaker, Dr. John Paul Abuke. So I'm going to introduce him. Dr. John Paul Ambuke is currently the head of periodicals at University of Swaziland Library, Swaziland. He has accomplished a module for UNESCO CDS-ISIS on disease management. He is Emerald Awardee, and he has granted a project for mobile application. He has published more than 40 research publications in various journals of repute, edited and published 5 books. He is a regular invited speaker in number of international conferences. He is the recipient of LICENCING Italy's award for the best paper. He is the coordinator of EIFL, FOSS, and INFSP. With this introduction, I formally welcome Dr. John Paul Ambu, and I hope that his experience about electronic resource management will give a deep insight, a deep knowledge throughout to all the participants, and it would be beneficial for the libraries community at large. Thank you so much, and we feel honored to have you here on the board. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey, and thank you, everyone, and very good afternoon. Let me just clear it. I'm talking from South Africa, so I just want to know whether you hear me clearly. If there is any adjustment I need to make, please let me know.
It is clear, sir. It is very
much
clear. Yeah, it is very much clear.
Clear. Okay, fine. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Very warm greetings to everyone from South Africa. As you guys are getting into your winter now, we are getting into our summer. So it is the opposite of what you have in India. Maybe in another 2 weeks, we will be getting into our own summer. I'm very much delighted to be with you this afternoon, especially during this new normal situation, especially in the middle of the pandemic, to talk to you about management of electronic resources. This is a great opportunity for knowledge sharing. And before I begin, let me start with my gratitude to a few friends of mine, like Dr. Sriramji and all the others at Thapar, Dr. Archana, and everyone who's associated with this webinar. This is a great initiative, and it is gratifying to see close to 180 participants this morning and close to 130 of them today, and I mean this session, and almost 190 yesterday evening, very attentively attend these sessions. I would like to acknowledge the presence of my guide, but I don't see him, but I saw him this morning, Dr. Sanjay Kataria, who provided an inspiring talk this morning about research data management. Today is a unique day for all three of the presenters, myself, Dr. Kataria and Dr. Sriram, mainly because we stand before you as a symbol of collaboration. I work in South Africa, Dr. Sriram in one place, Dr. Kataria in another place. Amongst us, we have published close to 25 collaborative research papers in various publications and various reputed journals like Emerald and Sage and things like that. In our process in the year 2013, all three of us collaborated and published a paper on electronic resource management, which I believe is the first electronic resource management article from India. It was in par with the universal standards on electronic resource management. At the same year, similar articles were also published in other reputed journals around the world. These ideas, along with our ideas, became the basis of today's electronic resource management workflow. I am very happy to share these ideas with you today, and especially when my co-authors are present in the podium. Do you mind if I mute my video so that the reception from here on my PowerPoint will be better? So in order to optimize the connectivity, can I just start sharing my slides and then cut my video? Is it okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Good. Let me start sharing my video, my presentation. So as you've noticed, the arrival of electronic resources into the libraries have greatly changed the face of the library. It has not only changed the face of the library, but it has also changed the face of the librarians. As someone who's been working with the electronic resources, or working about the electronic resources for the past 2 decades, I see the emergence of new units into the library exclusively for electronic resources. There is no doubt that the future of libraries are going to be filled with electronic resources. Though the explosion of these digital resources are very rapid, so far we have been managing them with the existing staff on a case-by-case basis with small disproportionate expertise. Today's session gives us an opportunity to analyze them theoretically and look at its life cycle to better understand how we can manage these electronic resources. Now, managing resources in libraries were never strange to librarians. We have been managing every possible resource which came into the library right from the day libraries were started coming into this world. You can see that our forefathers successfully managed libraries as far back as 4,500 years back. Even before the time when we were hunters and gatherers, our forefathers managed libraries in the caves and rocks, but they were unclassified libraries. History shows that with the advent of written form, almost 4,500 years back, we had libraries with clay tablets. The resources were clay. We managed them better. We even had a wonderful preservation system with clay jackets to preserve the clay tablets from destruction. It continued with papyrus in the Common Era of 1200 BC, followed by the parchment, which was around 300 BC, to paper around 250 AD. Many libraries thrived through the scriptoriums to copy text, to hand populate, and to manage libraries. We managed them nicely. The invention of printing press in the year 1440 to the latest electronic in the late 1960s have further enhanced libraries, and managed libraries have become the subject of debate and discussion. From these 5,000 years of experience, we have successfully learned the art and science of managing these resources. For example, when we moved away from clay to papyrus, we learned to classify the information according to subject. When we moved from parchment, we learned to sort information and we learned to store information which appears in various volumes. So to learn to manage information resources has been the success of our profession. And in this session, I would like to take you through the following progression of ideas. I would like to start with the genesis of electronic resources, to go through the routine of what are these electronic resources and their life cycle, then follow it up with the theoretical workflow related with managing them. Since we move away from print, the copyright issues slightly change into license agreements, which I would like to focus and follow it up. And then finally, I would like to look at how to convert these into a system which is automated and what is there in the future with the electronic resources. Now, let us start with the birth of electronic resources, its management, and its life cycle. A very simple definition of electronic resources are that they are materials in digital format which can be accessed electronically. People may wonder what is different in this. Until the arrival of electronic resources, what we were doing is we were owning whatever came into the library. With the inclusion of electronic resources, the first time we will not be owning the resources, but we will be accessing them. And of course, sometimes we will own them, but basically we will be accessing them. This fundamental shift from ownership to access has shaken the fundamental policies of the library. The collection development policies of a library were centered around the ownership of resources in the library. The cataloging section of the library centered around the resources that the library owned. The circulation of material in the library centered around the resources that the library owned. And it is the same with reader service or the public access service, which was more centric to service delivery rather than the resources. This fundamental shift has necessitated a fundamental change in the entire structure of the library and its service delivery model. When we look at different types of electronic resources, we can say ebooks, e-journals, databases, CDs, DVDs, e-conference proceedings, the list goes on and on and on. Anything connected with electronic becomes electronic resources. Now, the electronic revolution in libraries started with the development of the MARC format in the early 1960s. This was followed by the availability of bibliographic databases in the libraries by the end of 1961, almost in the beginning of 1962 also. With the potential to provide credible and voluminous information, the 1970s saw the provision of data sets such as census and survey data. In the early 80s, libraries started receiving data and retrieval software, first in the form of disks and later in the form of CD-ROMs. This completely changed the perspective of electronic resources. Bulky and recurrent library resources started appearing in CD-ROMs. Encyclopedias and yearbooks started appearing in electronic format. The 1990s saw the advent of network-based, web-based thrust towards catalogs. First, the bibliographic catalog access, then the full-text database were made available in electronic format. Though the advent of ebooks can be traced back to the 1980s with the project Gutenberg, the real thrust towards electronic books started by the turn of this century. Ebooks, ebook readers, electronic publishing started flourishing, and the past 2 decades are the golden period of electronic resources. Now, I would like to just start with the MARC because a lot of us have forgotten what happened in the 1960s. In the 1960s, the Library of Congress developed the machine-readable catalog, which is called as the MARC. Their interest or intent was to create a computer readable format that could be used for bibliographic records, enabling libraries to download catalogs, share information, and search all parts of the catalog record and things like that. Interestingly, even before MARC was developed, we in libraries were sharing catalogs in the form of union catalogs and all those things in microfilms, microfiches, and the things are even in printed books. Since computers had the potential to minimize the difficulties of these shareable catalogs, the Library of Congress decided that computers to be used. Their goal was to create a program that would encode all the information needed in the catalog record. That's how MARC record was born. MARC was born. Now, an important development in the MARC is the distribution of the machine captured records as magnetic tapes to the 16 different libraries, which showed the the possibility of networking and collaboration, which formed the basic cornerstone of today's networking and distributed resource sharing in libraries. So this led to the establishment of OCLC, the Ohio College Library Consortium in the year 1967, which is the first computerized network of libraries. The early 70s saw the introduction of shared cataloging, which allowed libraries to achieve dramatic cost saving by sharing bibliographic records. One library could create an online bibliographic record and the other libraries could use the same. So from 1972 onwards, you can see quite a lot of sharing happened between libraries. So the progression of electronic resources in libraries started with from then on, we can see the progression. Like in 1975, we saw the availability of online public access catalogs, followed by bibliographies, bibliographic databases in the 80s, the CD-ROM databases in the 85, the web-based ones in the 95, and that's how it progressed. So at the same time, the ebook project started in the 1971 with Project Gutenberg, but it became popular only in the late 1990s. At the same time, the electronic serials became very popular and the CD-ROM based books became famous. And in the turn of the millennium, the online books became very prominent in libraries. The impact of these resources into the libraries necessitated enormous changes. First and foremost, the library policies has to be revisited to accommodate the electronic resources. The concept of library collection from ownership to accessing became the topic of discussion. The collection development policies of a library were centered around the ownership of the library. With the new access models, the libraries had the luxury of pre-access and back files. In certain cases, they can even have restricted access. Two different kinds of problems or headaches were witnessed by the cataloging section. First is how to catalog an access model, and the second is, does copy cataloging of MARC records and uploading them amount to original cataloging? The circulation of material in a library centered around the ownership of the resources, but now suddenly the online and e-books have taken over the centralized service delivery mode. Hence, a completely new and overhauled policies were necessitated in the process. The information service delivery, which was measured in quantity and numbers, started moving towards quality with possibility of feedback and access statistics and comparative analysis and things like that. The new type of resources needed a new kind of skill sets, which was outside the library science. Librarians were forced to understand some degree of legal issues, especially beyond the copyright law, to successfully negotiate license agreements that will allow favorable access to users. Communication became another important quality, since there needs to be a constant liaison between the publisher, the users, and things like that. All these have necessitated staff with new kind of skill sets to manage the legal background and things like that. Now, since most of these new impacts and ideas centered around the management of these resources, it gave way to the new idea called electronic resource management. In short, we call it as ERM. So what is ERM? ERM refers to the processes associated with the acquisition and maintenance of library resources in electronic format. The proliferation of electronic resources was seen in the last 2 decades, which has seen an increased user expectations for immediate and enhanced access to them by the users. Libraries acquire more and more electronic resources, and as a result, there is an increased demand to completely and competently manage these resources. This is because electronic resources involve new and at times complex acquisition models. For example, print resources are purchased in a number of ways, directly from an agent, or through a book exhibition, or through catalogs, or reviews, or things like that, and you can buy them. In the case of electronic resources, there are individual license agreements that govern how and when a resource can be used, and once it is processed, they are available, but it is not visible to the users like the print collection. Now, in order to understand the electronic resource management, it becomes essential that we understand the electronic resource management life cycle and workflow. Electronic resource life cycle vary from resource to resource and are comprised of repetitive stages that are not always obvious because electronic resources are not physically shipped and delivered. The electronic resource life cycle is non-linear, it is repetitive, and it is ongoing. The most basic electronic resource life cycle will last for a 12-month period, beginning with the acquisition or purchase or renewal, then move to activation and setup, and end with ongoing maintenance and re-evaluation for the next renewal period. From this most basic model, the electronic resource life cycle grows more and more complicated. Some life cycle may span to 2 to 5 year period or even longer. Some may require incremental payment like every couple of months. But in general, except for one-time purchase models such as backfiles or ebooks and other products, for any given resource, life cycle phases may occur in a predictable annual rotation. In 2008, Oliver Persh from ESSCO presented the earliest model of the electronic resource life cycle, which captured the non-linear nature of electronic resources resource management in 6 different phases: acquire, provide access, administer, support, evaluate, and renew. After his presentation, it was presented in a conference. It was published in the journal called The Serials Librarian, was later adapted by the North American Serials Interest Group. And this is considered to be the core competencies for electronic resource librarians, and still stands as a guidelines for electronic resource management workflow. In 2013, Graham Stone and Jill Emery developed the techniques for electronic resource management, which is called as TERMS, T-E-R-M-S. Working with Oliver Persh's original model, Emery and Stone got into the workflows contained within each phase of the life cycle, clarifying how management of resources occur within each technique, and that is how TERMS was developed. TERMS provides librarians with tools and a global network to address their own workflow challenges. At the very same year, myself, then Dr. Kataria and Dr. Sriram also published our own workflow in the DESIDOC Journal of Library and Information Technology, basing our workflow on Oliver's model. We slightly changed the terms to suit library science related terms such as selection, acquisition, implementation, evaluation, review, and retention. Much of the literature published after 2013 on electronic resource management is based on the terms outlined for workflows and processes and the workflow V3 had published. TERMS outlines 6 major techniques, namely investigation, acquisition, implementation, evaluation, review, and finally cancel and replace. These set of techniques with workflows within each component complements the Oliver's lifecycle model and provide a solid foundation to electronic resource management tools and guidelines. Now that I have laid the foundation for the management of electronic resources, I would like to get into the electronic resource management workflow to analyze each and every aspect of the workflow and finally to arrive at the system for the entire workflow. I would like to slightly deviate from the terms used by Graham Stone and use the terms we used in our article. They are selection, acquisition, implementation, evaluation, renew, and review and retention. Okay, the ERM workflow starts with the identification and selection of the content by the librarian to purchase with proper investigation. This is followed by the acquisition of content after trial and testing. Just a second, yeah. This is followed by the acquisition of content after trial and testing. The next stage is the implementation of the purchase by making it visible for the users and allowing them to discover it and use it. This is followed by the ongoing evaluation, and then at the end, the cycle review, and if everything is in order, to retain and then to cancel it. Now, the selection of electronic resources. The selection of electronic resources for any library depends on three different aspects, namely collection development, identification and evaluation of the resources, identification, and finally the evaluation of resources. First and foremost, any selection of material should align with the prevailing collection development policy of the library. I mean, this we insist, anywhere we insist this one. The second important factor in the selection process is the identification process of the resource. The identification of e-resources is challenging due to a rapid increase in the availability of resources. A variety of tools can be used to make sound identification. Something like trial offers or demonstrations from publishers, faculty suggestions, discussion lists, peer review websites, vendor exhibitions, all these things can, or even exhibitions at conferences, all these things can be used for identification. The final step is the evaluation process, where by evaluating the usefulness, usability, and utility of an electronic resource to suit the need of the library and in line with the collection development policy of the library. Now, we keep on harping about the collection development of the policy because I believe collection development policy is a very important. Collection development policy is very important for the procurement of any resource, especially an electronic resource, because the policy acts as a blueprint for the selectors and helps them to ensure uniformity in procedures and appropriate balance in the library collection. The first step is to know what you need for your library. Before you start looking for resources, you need to have a collection development document which lays out the ways, the whys, as well as what and how to build our collection. In the world of electronic resources, one will get carried away with the deluge of information resources one is available. So consider this one, unless you have a proper guiding document, you will have a nightmare about even procuring or even trying to suggest anything. Now, the reason is that the collection development policy is important because when we talk about electronic resources, there are a number of different models available for purchasing. Before identification of needed resources, it's necessary to understand different purchasing models we have. The first and foremost is the purchase or subscribe models, and some of the publishers provide both. For example, Emerald Management Database will provide a subscription model for its current journals and a purchase model for its back issues. In the same way, back issues are delivered as a CD-ROM product in some like publishers like National Geographic. So it's important to establish the format, platform, and the access rights for any of the publishing models. Similarly, there are a number of different subscription models. Packages like print and online package, CD-ROM and print package, a set of journals or books in specific order, collections like subject collection, ethnicity, or country-specific collection, databases like publisher-based, theme-based, subject discipline-based, or big deals like number of different databases put together as a big deal, or pay-per-view models like you pay only when you want access, demand or pattern-driven acquisition, you pay only when it is used, digital rights management, materials with restricted rights to print, view, save, or copy, a collection model with embargo period where you cannot access current articles within a certain period of time. And also within those models, there are different formats like single title, where single journal or book title available through the publisher's own platform. Aggregated, where you pick and choose from a collection of aggregated, a substantial collection of them. Databases, where you have a collection of journals or books, are both available through a single interface. Or digitized printed collection, whereby a set of electronic resource digitized from the print collection and often called as back files. Streaming media content available as and when the content is ready and streamed directly into your portal. Or third-party aggregation of electronic resources available through the third party and things like that. So the first task in the electronic resource management is the identification of new resources. So this is where the task of an electronic resource librarian or a manager gets tougher and interesting. In this slide, I've given a number of resources for you. I hope the organizers will circulate these slides for you. So there are certain tools one can use to get these information. Usually the publishers' catalogs, the reviews of publication provide a lot of information related to the identification. Things like Library of Congress e-resource online. I think I've given the URL for those things. Or ULRIC, or EBSCOs, or WorldCat. There are a number of these tools available for you, and you can use any of these tools to do a proper identification of new electronic resources. Once the format and the identification process is done, or in the process, one can use the checklist I have provided in this slide to see if the resources fall within the stipulated guidelines. I think I have given 8 simple questions here. Has the resource been directly requested? Has the resource been evaluated by the stakeholders? Does the content fit with the curriculum? Is the content duplicated within other library resources? Does the content fill a gap? Does the vendor made efforts to make the resource accessible? Does the resource requested have similar resources available? Is the proposed format compatible with the current technology which is available in the library? These are some of the questions we do. Once the identification has been completed, the next stage is to do the evaluation of the resources. Evaluation helps to determine the cost, the reliability of the content provider, the authoritativeness of the resource, and so on and so forth. Trial reviews, demonstrations of the product will help in evaluating the product in making a sound decision. I believe a typical evaluation process for e-resources has many facets and follow various selection criteria, which is vital for selectors to select appropriate electronic resource. Now, what I have done is I've given some guidelines for you. This is mostly academic, but I would like you to use these things. The following guidelines provide a sound evaluation criteria for acquiring any electronic resources. Like, is the content relevant? Does the publisher provide current content? What is the cost of the content? What is the publisher's reputation? Where does the resource indexed and aggregated? What is the impact factor of journals published within the database? How easy is to access the content? How easy is to navigate? What kind of technical supports you get, and what kind of licensing term you get. And these are the criteria which you use for evaluate the resources. Now, a sound evaluation process can be made using the criteria I have provided in this slide, and it provides close to 8 different evaluation process guidelines for you. You can use them like compare institutions' policies, evaluate the resources, consider projected use, and all those things I have provided. These are more academic, but it will help you in the evaluation process. Now, there is an evaluation checklist which is used globally, which has got 8 different sections, namely product information, primary users, content, cost, results, interface, and all those things. What I have done is that I have provided you a questionnaire or a sample questionnaire within the slide. It's a 2-page questionnaire based on the 8 sections which I had put it in the previous section. So you can use this questionnaire for your evaluation purpose, and I hope this will be shared and you can use that to evaluate. Now, for a successful evaluation and implementation, there is a need to have a trial access, which should involve 3 specific users or audience. They are the subject heads, subject specifics, subject experts, technical specialists, and the targeted audience. And please use this checklist for the trial access evaluation. The access checklists are method of authentication. Is the content relevant? What is the quality of the content? Whether it is searchable? All these things I've provided here are good checklists for you to do the trial. So before you acquire, consider the following. After all checking and trial access, before the final decision is made to acquire the resources, it is essential to consider product type, institution size, number of users, consortia, packages and combination deals, content access, since they have a direct impact on the price. Price difference will be there for different kinds of packages and depending on the numbers and things like that. Now, so with all prerequisites for acquiring an electronic resource has been completed, the acquisition process can be initiated with comparing the specification, cross-checking them, compare specification. If there is a need to negotiate, once again, do it, review the license once again, because you would have done a lot of consultation, renegotiate, sign the agreement, and finally, once the product is delivered, record the metadata for further processing. Now, before you launch, consider the following during the launch. This is one of the areas which Graham Stone, in his technique for electronic resource management, provides. This is a 6-point reminder for launching an electronic resource. He talks about testing, marketing, training, soft launching, getting a feedback, and then the final launch. Okay, testing can be done with the librarians, but marketing and training has to be done in conjunction with the publisher and other relevant stakeholders. Soft launch will include people who were with you during the trial period, and then get feedback from everyone, and then finally the product can be launched for consumption by the users. I'm sure by now you must have been tired going through all the various process and pre-process of acquiring an electronic resource. I wanted to do this because I see there were a number of young libraries and librarians who were coming up, and I thought giving a theoretical background for them will help them when they start their career as librarians, because those things at one time or the other will help them in acquiring correct electronic resources. What we saw so far is the scientific way of dealing with electronic resources. Now, I would like to spend a few minutes to go through the copyright and licensing and touch on the concept of open content. Most of you may think, why licensing in this discussion? It's because license terms outside the legal responsibility, licensing outlines the legal responsibility of the library. It is important for librarians to understand licenses and its implications within the institution. Different departments need different pieces of information from the licenses. For example, the interlibrary loan department will need the ILL clause and restrictions in an electronic resource. The systems librarian or the IT department will need the clause on wrongful use and library security responsibilities. The serials department will need to know when the starting and ending dates are for a particular electronic resource. Our perpetual access and title is from the date of signing. They might need those things. Public services or your circulation will need to be able to quickly determine if there are unusual access restrictions, individual registration requirements, or access to mobile devices. So they might need to know all those things. So providing such information about many licenses to each department is a real information management challenge, but it is necessary to ensure smooth functioning of a library. So I thought I will brush through the licensing. I'm not going to go through in depth, but I'm going to brush through the licensing before I get to the other final points about electronic resource management. Now, in general, a law is an enforceable set of public rules that govern a society. When there is no law, then the end result is lawlessness. Copyright law should reflect a balance between the rights of copyright owners and those of users of copyright material, such as individuals and libraries. As such, they may contain special provisions to allow libraries to undertake preservation activities or to make fair use of material in their collections. Printed materials such as books, journals, pamphlets are usually governed by copyright law. So when a library buys a book, it knows that the rules under the national copyright law applies. But when it comes to electronic resources, the game changes. When it comes to the electronic resources, it's completely different. The electronic resources are both governed by the intellectual property rights of the material on the access and other restriction provided in the license and the contract. In a contract is a private, legally binding agreement between two parties who are free to negotiate the terms and conditions. A license, which is mostly regulated by a contract law, is a formal authority to do something that would otherwise be unlawful. Licenses came into widespread use as a means to govern access and use of electronic products such as software, computer games, online film and music and database. This means that most electronic material purchased in libraries are subject to a license agreement. Now, because of these licenses, there are new issues which have come into the libraries. The advent of licenses have brought new issues because licenses are covered under contract law. Contract law usually takes precedence over copyright law. So anything that the library agrees to in a license is usually binding, regardless of what the copyright law says. In essence, the library and the publisher are free to negotiate the terms and conditions. This means that the library may negotiate extra provisions over and above what is allowed in their copyright law, or they may surrender their rights granted under their copyright law. Firstly, the position of the parties is unequal, that we have to understand, because the publisher has an exclusive monopoly right over the material. Publishers who are often international can afford to employ lawyers to draft their licenses, which are often highly technical and written using high-sounding legal terms and mostly in English. If anyone carefully notices the licenses, they are usually governed by the law of the country that is most favorable to the publisher rather than the law of the country in which the library is situated. For printed material, the library and its users have potentially unlimited access, but there are no restrictions placed by the copyright owner on the length of time the library may keep a printed book on the shelf, or whether the user reads a book after it is borrowed, but this is different with electronic resources. If a library cancels its subscription for journal, it may keep the previous issues for further use. In contrast, the license usually provides access to the electronic material for a specific period of time and under the condition as specified in the license. This means that the library must negotiate each and every use that they wish to make to the material. Now, I have often seen the terms which you see in this slide used in licenses, terms like authorized size definition, or authorized used definition. These are some of the things which I thought I will just splash on the screen. I'm not going to go through them, but I would always suggest that before we negotiate any electronic resources, we try to familiarize ourselves with some of these legal terms. Since the scope of this presentation is mainly to introduce you to the concept, I am not going deep into the technicalities of these licensing. For more information, I would suggest that we try to look at a number of publications available in this subject, especially publications published from credential institutions like IFLA and ALA. Especially the American Library Association has published a book titled Licensing Digital Content, a practical guide for librarians that was written by Leslie Ellen Harris. I think the second edition is published in the year 2009. Harris provides an exhaustive glossary of licensing terms in his book, and I believe it will greatly enhance our understanding of licensing. There are a few, there is a liblicensecentral.edu. There is a website which gives quite a lot of licensing term descriptions for librarians to use whenever they want to use them to understand the terms which are used in the licenses. Now, the negotiation process of license, in short, it begins when the library starts to consider a subscription or to purchase an electronic resource. Firstly, the library must know what it needs, what it wants, and what it can afford. Before negotiating a license with a vendor, it is best for the library to have already made some decision regarding the negotiation policies and specific license terms the library may find acceptable, unacceptable, or mandatory. Okay, it is also important to have an understanding of these license agreement language, because often I have seen people complaining that the language used is more legal than common. Okay, that is how it is, and we don't have a say in that one, so we have to understand and accept that. The library itself should also have an archive of license agreements already in force that can be referred to for licensing language. We can always compare with with one database to another database to see what is different, and we can always compare notes. When negotiating the license for an electronic resource, it's important to remember there should be some middle ground, because we cannot always win 100%, as both parties ultimately want to reach an agreement. Statistics are going to be a big bargaining chip that can be used to support the library position. Supposing if it's a new one, you can also use the trial statistics to bargain for a better price for a library. In a section called licensing digital resources, how to avoid the legal pitfalls, I think it's Emmanuel as the author. He provides 10 instances to avoid a license, which I have included for your reference. Please go through that. When you have doubts about unfavorable conditions, you can always look at the slide and you can always do it. Now, there are a lot of challenges with copyrights and licensing. Many of us will agree that there are a lot of challenges. How can a library control unauthorized copying and using it and unauthorized using by its users, or even control reverse engineering of digital resource, DRM material, digital rights management material? What happens when a staff wants to use it in a learning management system, which throws open the site license as well as authorized user clause, or the restriction of any time limit? How to use an electronic resource in an electronic reserve system, because the copyright says a material should not be stored in any retrievable media. What is the procedure for using them through institutional repositories? Does it allow only intranet usage? What about the interlibrary loan? Can we send electronic material through interlibrary, and what happens when the infringement happens, and when what happens? Who will be blamed for that one? Do we have educational exemptions and fair use? How fair is fair? Do we have the rights of first sale? For example, in a printed book, you can buy a book and then you can sell the book. Do we have that kind of a facility in this one? In libraries, you can sell your copies to get newer versions. So most of these issues are still blurred with electronic resources, and hopefully in the days to come, we'll be addressing most of these issues. Now, I thought I will bring in the issue of open access along with licensing, mainly because of the increasing number of open access initiatives in the past. Free and open resources with open licenses and Creative Commons licenses are beginning to be very common now. Many of the publishers have hybrid journals and databases with mixture of open access and copyrighted material in their databases. Most of the publishers have an increased number of open access electronic resources because of fundamental changes in their scholarly communication practice. They provide green, gold, and hybrid type of open access with different embargo and archiving standards. So when we do the licensing, it is essential to look at the open access section of their licensing, which tells us the library's right to do what they can do and what they cannot do. So go through that one. And in the slide, I have provided some guidelines on how to select and evaluate open access electronic resources. This you can find it in most of the open access presentations. This will help you when you need to do it. Please refer this back when you have issues with open access electronic resource selection, especially when it comes to the electronic resources. Now, I would like to quickly move on to the next important aspect of how to make the acquired electronic resources more discoverable by the library users. Now, once again, I'm going to go through the basics of certain things, but later I will pick up. Later I will pick up with the new concepts which are coming up in the resource discovery. So once a deal has been made, contract signed, or a license agreement is in place and paid, the invoices are paid, then the database or an e-journal subscription or an e-book has been subscribed or purchased. So let's use a database as an example. Unlike ordering physical item, you can't just sit back and wait for your new database to arrive. The first step is to acquire the database. The first step in acquiring the database is to make it accessible to the users. The first step in making resources available to the users is to authenticate it to the users as per the license agreement. While making the library resources available to the users, there are 4 different types of authentication which are mainly followed. They are IP authentication, proxy authentication, VPN authentication, and credential-based authentication. When access to the content is provided through the institution's IP range or the static IP, then it is called as IP authentication. Similarly, for remote access, a proxy authentication is established, and a VPN-based method is employed to provide access to the securely extends a private network over the public network. And the oldest and not so favorable access method is credential-based user ID and password method. I don't think many of the libraries use them, but some libraries still use those things. Now, technically, to provide sound discoverable content, there are 3 major requirements. The first one is to provide access. Second one is to provide seamless link, and then third one is to provide the data with utmost quality. Providing access is to allow users to get to the resource from anywhere with a minimum of effort and with minimum disclosure of identity information. By seamless linking, it is to provide end users with the viable links to electronic content that they can access immediately online, are links that can contain enough information to get the item. Such an item should be of high quality. Poor scanning, black and white scanning of color graphics, and intrusive watermarking can result in an unusable data. So these 3 are very essential requirements for successful linking of the information, the electronic resources. Now, there are a number of ways in which an electronic resource can be linked and made discoverable to the users. The most common is through the library's online public access catalog. When most of the electronic resources are subscribed or purchased, there are possibilities of receiving the mark records, which can be readily populated into the library's catalog, which allows linking and discoverable through the library catalog. Some libraries even provide a link through a static web page as electronic resource page with links to the resources and make it available at the library website. Some use commercial portals which provide a third-party access to the content, and some libraries do it through services that maintain holdings or through much more electronic resource management systems. Most of the libraries use a very sophisticated or specialized discovery services offered by commercial vendors. I would like to spend a few minutes looking at these discovery services before moving on to the review, usage statistics, and analytics of electronic resource usage. Now, as I have already mentioned, the most sophisticated and easy way to make the resource available to the users are through discovery services. The easy search interface of Google, especially the single search interface, has been the goal for many libraries and the library vendors over the last several years. A discovery service is an online library searching tool that provides an all-in-one interface for finding library holdings, online subscriptions, and open access resources. This is called as federated search. A federated single search interface can simultaneously search multiple databases, including the online public access catalog, subscription databases, abstracting and indexing databases, the local repositories, to name a few. Most libraries use discovery services in addition to or as a replacement for their online public access catalog. In my library, I use both. I use my online public access catalog as well as a discovery service called ESSCO Discovery Services. These discovery services enable libraries to search seamlessly across a wide range of content. With this, libraries are able to select their licensed content to integrate into their catalog. The discovery service providers are often given a complete metadata and full text of publishers' journals and ebooks, including contemporary and archival content. This allows the vendors to index the content fully to make it more visible and discoverable. An important feature of a discovery service is its ability to provide results based on relevancy ranking using a unique method that is a combination of dynamic and static ranking. So when I say dynamic ranking, it includes term frequency, field weighting like the author, title, or term manipulation like synonyms, stemming, and all the other functions. Static ranking includes content type, date published, the peer review status, the citation, and all those things. But when we search these things from within a library, the library's collected items are given higher ranking than the subscribed databases items. So this is how the discovery, but with the discovery service, the resource will be clearly made visible to the users as and when it comes. Now, what you see on the screen is the ESSCO Discovery Service. Most popular discovery system we have in the market is ESSCO Discovery Services. ESSCO Discovery Service is an all-inclusive search solution that makes in-depth research much easier. The platform offers sophisticated features and functionality that anticipates user intent, helping them to get exactly what they are looking for very quickly and easily. And in my library, this is the system we use. Another important discovery service which is available around the world is Summon from Proquest. Summon claims that it increases the value of library by delivering an unprecedented research experience. It's more than a single search box that services. It makes the collection more discoverable and provides unique ways for users to connect with librarians. The result is a rich research experience that presents results without any bias, increases resource usage, strengthens the library role in research process. Another one we have in the market is Primo, and this is from X Libraries, and this is another discovery service which easily integrates with wide range of library and academic systems. So, it has a very active user community which amplifies the power of Primo through sharing customer-led innovations, best practices, and collaborative development. So this is another vibrant discovery service we have. TDNet Discovery, another very interesting discovery services. And the good thing with this one is like it has a comprehensive discovery search bar and a library e-resource A to Z access portal. Okay, that's what they provide. Users can quickly find any article or item they need and link the full text with an open URL resolver or use other tailored customized workflow options for document delivery. And this is one of the best one for science, technology, and mathematics. Okay, it's discovery search combines a comprehensive built-in index, and that is why the index is on science, technology, and management focused. And it has also got an option to have a local index or proprietary content also, or proprietary index also is possible to be amended along with its own index. We also have a nice discovery service from WorldCat. WorldCat is another, WorldCat Discovery is another widely used cloud-based application that helps people easily find resources available at their library and in libraries worldwide through a single search. Library users and staff use the WorldCat Discovery instances to search the WorldCat databases to identify materials they need and to see where they are available. Now, once you made the electronic resources discoverable, the next stage is to the next stage in the electronic resource workflow is to subject the utilization of the resources through an ongoing evaluation process. Online evaluation can be looked at different phases, from the user satisfaction to the platform usage, to downtime, to accessibility, vendor accessibility, provision and availability of value-added services, or through external evaluation tools like LIFECYCLE or eMetrics. Okay, a lot of tools through which you can do the evaluation. The most common method of evaluation is through usage statistics available through the publisher's platform. Now, when we talk about usage statistics of electronic resources, two important things which come into play, which is called as counter and sushi. I just want to spend a few minutes on what these things are. These both are widely adopted standards when it comes to usage statistics. So one is a protocol and another one is a standard. Counter stands for counting online usage of networked electronic resources, provide the standard that enables the libraries to count the use of electronic resources. The counter project was started in the year 2003 and it was strengthened in the year 2006. It makes a code of practice available for vendors when preparing statistical usage data or reports. Counter trusts individual vendors, usually either publishers or content aggregators, to adopt the code of practice voluntarily, in which case their statistics are called as counter compliant. This is important for librarians. When you choose a database, make sure that the database is counter compliant. Whether a publisher or aggregator or a vendor comply with these standards and code of conduct is verified through independent auditing authority. And the code of practice covers the content, the format, the delivery mechanism, the date of processing. All those things are taken into consideration when it is being benchmarked. On the other hand, you have SUSHI, which is called as Standardized Usage Statistics Harvesting Initiative Protocol. This is initiated by National Information Statistics Organization, NISO, and it defines the standard and standards and formats. This particular SUSHI is for downloading statistics from a vendor. Okay, they have a protocol for that one. This protocol defines automated requests and response models for harvesting e-resource usage data. This is designed to work with counter. You have to understand that those are not working independently. It is designed to work with counter. In fact, SUSHI simplifies the process of gathering statistics for the most frequently used reports. Generally, the library or statistics management software vendors set up a SUSHI compliant harvesting server, and the library checks each vendor for SUSHI compliance and for that particular vendor's code. When the SUSHI download is run, the statistics server connects to the publisher's statistics server to download the counter report information, and that is how we get the usage statistics for any specific electronic information or electronic resource. Now, once you have the review done, the last block in the electronic resource management workflow is after the construction and analysis of usage statistics is to decide on the review process, where either to renew the resource if everyone has satisfied or the report is satisfactory, or to replace it with another product if similar product is still needed, or to cancel it completely if it is unsatisfactory. Of course, this is an administrative decision phase where all the scientific resources like the statistics, reports, and analysis, along with the budget and other management tools are weighed together to arrive at a conclusion. So this marks the end of the resource management workflows. What we saw so far is the entire process of electronic resource management workflow. This workflow was a result of the library's attempt to come to terms with electronic resources and procedures in managing them. In many cases, these procedures grew originally from a print management and were either insufficient or not effective. the entire workflow was very cumbersome and at times too elaborative. I have seen over the years that the key factor for the success of electronic resource management is not the software, but the structure and convenience of the library's workflow. Analyzing workflow for electronic resources is one of the most important pieces of any electronic resource software implementation. Hence, I have covered all these basics for your understanding. Each section of the workflow cycle can be done independently or as a collaborative or grouped activity. In the past, there were many attempts of being made to make all these activities through one integrated system to make it as comprehensive system, which through an interface can be a complete system. In this final section, I would like to show you how these can be integrated into one single system and what are the initiatives which are taken to arrive at such a system. Library software vendors recognized and responded to this need to have a comprehensive system by adding or developing additional functionality to their software as an attempt to include the management of electronic resources. So in the course of this final section, I will show you the initiatives which have been done so far and what is to expect in the future. These new systems go by the name called Electronic Resource Management Systems, or ERMS, which can refer to either completely new software systems or new functionalities added to the existing software. Currently, there are many systems to choose from. Commercial systems are available from almost all library software vendors, and there are multiple open source options. These systems can be complex standalone softwares, additional modules, which can be added into integrated library system, or it can be a simple ring resolver, or simply a database used to collect statistics. So let's look at them. I can see the foundation of the, I would like to start with the foundation where we started with the ERMS. The foundation of the development of electronic resource management was the DLF ERMI report. Okay, DLF stands for Digital Library Foundation. It is a program of the Council on Library and Information Resources, and in the year 2001, there was a study done by someone called Tim Jewell. He found that many libraries were creating local systems to manage electronic resources. So the DLF organized an electronic resource management initiative, which is called as ERMI, to expand the work of these libraries and encourage software development by vendors through standards, glossary, and documents. Okay, so in its report submitted in May 2002, it created a steering group for this purpose. By mid-2005, a number of standards were developed, and a comprehensive DLF electronic resource management report was presented. By the year 2007, the serials online holdings, a comprehensive A to Z list of electronic journals, which was produced, and it provided the first concrete step towards formulating a system-based electronic resource management. By the year 2010, most of the integrated library system vendors started using this to aid the management of electronic resources, and by 2012 onwards, a number of systems to manage electronic resources started springing up around the globe. Now, when you look at the forerunners of electronic resource management, before library software vendors recognized and responded to the need of an electronic resource management system, some university libraries developed in-house systems such as MIT's VERA system, VERA, and ERLIC from the Penn State University, Coral, a free and open source ERM system This is a very old and system, and it still remains active and popular. Another open source system called QUESTIONNAIRE, developed by Simon Fraser University Library, was another very old system, and I remember seeing its retirement in 2017 or 2018 very recently. They said they cannot continue. And there was a system called ERMS system from the University of Wisconsin, is another notable beginner in the area of electronic resource management systems. So these systems are known to be the forerunners of the modern electronic resource management systems. Now, I just want to give a small definition to the electronic management system before we get into the workflow of that one. An electronic management system can be defined as a system that provides a technical service backbone for controlling the entire life cycle of an electronic resource, either as a complete solution or as a modular-based support system. The reason why I went through each and every workflow or each and every aspect of the electronic resource right from the beginning is for you to understand this electronic resource management system, because if you don't understand those processes which I had explained earlier, it will be a bit difficult to understand how this system is going to work. The basic elements of these management tools help a library capture not only the identification, procurement and payment and invoice information, but also the essential metadata elements with regards to the cataloging and licensing of products, provide help in discovery of resources, help in the analytics of the usage of the electronic resources. Now, I'm going back to the Oliver Perch's workflow model of 2008, which captures the nonlinear nature of electronic resource management, and this is what is the fundamental of creating the electronic resource management systems for any electronic resource management. So what are the components which are needed for creating an electronic resource management? In order to achieve this workflow in a system, apart from the workflow elements which I discussed earlier, certain other compounds are also needed. Components like descriptive listing of electronic resources. We have not seen that one. That can have titles, database packages, and informations to be used for resource identification. License information to track and convey permitted resource usage at the point of use. Financial information to view titles by packages, publishers, or interface to align subscription more efficiently and streamline renewable and cancellations and to monitor upcoming renewals. Process status to track the processing progress of electronic resources. Systems and technical to track resource performance, issues, and access restriction. Contact and support to store correspondence, service histories, technical supports, and all those things. Usage information to capture usage data or usage location of publishers or the publisher produced usage data. The discovery element of electronic elements that can be part of this component or can be part of the catalog or any other system. So these are the different components one might need to have a system. So the core of the electronic resource management system is its knowledge base, which has the A to Z list of its all resources, all the titles, all the addresses, all the formats, the packages, databases, the pricing details, all those things are put together is called as the knowledge base or an A to Z list of resources. Then the acquisition control element, which controls the purchasing and renewal of resources. Then the administration module, which provides the administrative access, discovery, and contact of the resources. The licensing module, which has the licensing terms, and the reports module, which is used to generate usage reports. Now, I have drawn a visual workflow which joins all the 5 modules through the end user interface, where it directly works with the knowledge base to provide seamless workflow. This is how the whole ERMS is being built. In the center, you have the knowledge base, and you have the end user interface, which talks to the knowledge base and talks back, gets information from the acquisition control or from the administration or from licensing report and gets back to the end user. Okay, that is how the whole workflow or the whole flowchart has been designed. Now, so that brings us to the very important thing about knowledge bases. In order to understand why knowledge bases are critical to the electronic resource management process, it is important to know what they are. Electronic resource knowledges or knowledge bases are large data sets or data stores of information related to the vast expanse of electronic resources available for the library community. These systems contain metadata describing individual series and books, the packages, the databases in which they are contained, the journals, and the information related to the provider and to the resources, services, and everything. Knowledge base, I quote, functions as the library's e-address book to identify and maintain current and accurate business and access information about the providers, packages, platforms, titles, identifiers, and availability of each of the e-resource in the library or consortium's collection, unquote. So, knowledge bases provide basic metadata to identify electronic resources and indicate where they are available and the conditions under which they are available and all those information. When libraries, knowledge bases are critical to electronic resource management as they connect services such as ring resolvers, discovery services, and A to Z lists and play a central role in directing the user from the citation to available full text resources and to searching to full text resources and everything. Knowledge bases also support the library's internal functions, such including acquisitions, holding maintenance, collection analysis, usage statistics, and all those things are maintained using the knowledge bases. Now, there are a lot of knowledge bases, a number of knowledge bases available. Now, the reason why there are a number of knowledge bases available is that if you want to create your own electronic resource management system, all you can do is to subscribe or buy. It's better to subscribe because it has to be updated quite frequently. Subscribe to one of the knowledge bases and use your own interface to create. You can use your own interface to create your own electronic resource management systems. And some vendors who want to create electronic resource management systems, they buy these knowledge bases from different vendors and they use it in their electronic resource management system. So I thought it'll be better if I can show you some of the knowledge bases available throughout the world. The reason for listing these knowledge bases are that if there is a need to be, if there are needs to be a successful electronic resource management systems, then the core of that system, which is a knowledge base, should be an active one. By saying active, it should update information periodically. Otherwise, whatever system you have, it will fail. So what you see on the screen is the OCLC knowledge base available from OCLC, and you have a global open knowledge knowledge base. Okay, GOKB is a community managed open data platform that provides information about electronic resources. Then there is a ESSCO knowledge base. It's another important knowledge base which provides enormous amount of data for ERMS workflow. I would say in the world, ESSCO knowledge base seems to be leading the pack in the knowledge base in terms of updating, in terms of number of resources. You also have something called 360 Resource Manager, which is a complete solution for reducing the time and effort required to manage the entire life cycle of e-resources. And this also provides a comprehensive resources from tracking license terms, managing renewal dates, communication, streamlining workflows. A lot of things are provided through the 360 Resource Manager knowledge base. There is an SFX knowledge base e-service, which this is provided by X libraries. They also provide a comprehensive knowledge base which can be used in any of the ERMS. Now how the knowledge bases are converted into electronic resource management systems. Once we have the knowledge base, it is easy to develop a system from that by using the flowchart I showed you some slides earlier. All it needs is a powerful front end to bind all the ERM workflow. Usually the knowledge base is added with other products to evolve as an electronic resource management system. Sometimes some of the electronic management systems use their own, or they use the third-party discovery services along with it, and sometimes it integrates the integrated library information system for library integration. Later I will show you what are the systems which have the LIS also tagged along with the ERMS. There are also knowledge bases available for creating custom ERMS, which I alluded to earlier. And in some cases, the access to knowledge bases are provided through application programming interfaces also. Now, there are a lot of attempts are made to convert the knowledge bases into ERMS. There are a number of them in the market, as I alluded to. In the beginning, there are a number of commercial as well as open source electronic resource management systems available in the markets. Products like ESSCO, ERM Essential, X Libraries Verda, or Serial Solution, or Innovative Interface Millennium. They have a very good electronic resource management system, a Serial Solution 360 Resource Manager, or TONet Open ERM, Gold Rush, ERMS. All these things are commercial ones, and of course there are some open source ones, Coral, CUFTS, ERMES. And one problem I see with most of the open source is that the updating of their knowledge base is very slow. They do it once in a year or something like that. So what I've done is I have taken 4 major popular ERMS from X Libraries, Proquest, EBSCO, and OCLC, and I have compared them for your convenience. So in this chart, I have also analyzed which knowledge base they use, when was it introduced, what is their market position, how is it deployed, and also what I have done is what kind of indexing or what kind of linking they provide, what service platform they use, what kind of discovery product they use, and which ERMS they use, and all those things I provided in the slide. This is for you to have it as a reference. So when you want to choose a specific ERMS, I would like you to go through this chart to see how it compares. Okay, and that is why I have included this chart for you. Now, there are a lot of attempts made to create the electronic resource management system. Most vendors realize it is cumbersome process of keeping the knowledge base current and up to date. Okay, this is a very tough task since it involves hectic work, a lot of manpower spent on resource building, a lot of manpower spending on cross-checking. Since basically the service is for libraries, there are a number of attempts which are being made to bring this resource as a component of library service platforms, or bring it to the library and information system, or bring it to the library management systems, or LIS. Okay, initiatives like OCLC WorldShare. Okay, so OCLC WorldShare, apart from the integrated library system, they also provide a discovery service along with the ERMS service. Okay, all those things are put together, you get a single product. Our X Libraries ALMA, X Libraries has got a number of products. ALMA is one product which has got all the components of the ILS as well as the ERMS and the discovery and all those things put together. Our III, they have a product called Syra. Serious Solutions has got Intota and Curly OLE, 360 Resource Manager, 360 Counter. So these are services which keep on experimenting by adding new service models which come into the library, and they have added the ERMS into their library systems, and that is what you have in the market. Let me check my timing. Yeah, I think I've exhausted my time. I'm going to finish it in a couple of minutes. Okay. what is the future then? That provides us a glimpse into what is in store for the future. Integrated library solutions are always main concerns for libraries where they need all the services through a single point of access. Now, you have semantic link resolving is another possible enhancement I am looking forward in the next couple of years. Now that we have semantic vocabulary for our thesaurus, I'm looking forward to linking semantically using the electronic resources. That is one thing which we look for in the future. Interlibrary resource lending. This is another area which is looking very much possible in the near future. Systems which can provide ticket resolving, because what happens is, like, if a library user has a problem, he has to get back to the library and resolve it. Now, if we can have a ticket resolving right at the ERMS level, if there is a problem, the user gets in directly with the specific resource and get the problem resolved. So that is another thing which we are looking at. Discovery services with non-textual searches, which is slowly becoming a standard in search engine portals, are now being eagerly looked forward in library discovery services. Integration with learning management system is another area which we have a huge potential. Social networking alignments and altmetrics inclusive analytics. These are some areas in which the electronic resource management has a huge future in the coming days. So before I say a final thank you to you, I have a few observations to make. The information landscape has enormously changed over the past few decades. We are in the age of big data. We saw how the research data management takes place, and we see how open data is completely taking over the data management. It is very interesting to note that 90% of the world's data has been created in the last few years. Statistics show that the amount of new technical information is doubling every 2 years. For me, working in a university, it is very interesting to see that for a student starting a new technical education, half of what he or she has learned in the first year will be outdated by the third year. Interestingly, at universities, students are prepared for jobs which don't even exist, or technologies which haven't yet been invented. Hence, we prepare students to solve problems which they don't even know, or the problems don't even exist. I believe we as information scientists have a duty. The proliferation of electronic information or electronic information resources in the past few years have doubled our duty to correctly identify, discover, and deliver such resources to our children. I hope discussing and implementing the various electronic resource management tools and systems will go a long way, very, very long way, in enhancing the service delivery in our libraries. With this, I would like to stop and subject myself to your scrutiny and questions if you have any, and move along from then on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was thought-provoking ideas on electronic resource management, and I must say that all of our participants must be beneficial, get an insight about ERM in detail. Even I have never attended such a session on ERM in details, and you have covered almost all the spectrum of ERM in details. So now with your permission, I would like to open the session for participants so that they can have a question and answer session. So shall I read the question, or I request participant to ask question directly?
I think Dr. Sriram, Dr. Harsing and Mr. Abuzar is there. So I think they have already compiled the question about the session. So if they have the questions ready, I think they can ask, or
Sir, Miss Venus Khanna has compiled all the queries.
Yeah, Venus. Venus is there. She has maybe she has compiled the list. So Venus, can you go ahead with that? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
First question is there any open access discovery service platform? If yes, is it possible to integrate open access resources to open access discovery service tool?
Yes, there are, I think that in my, my presentation, I might have shown one or two, but you see, there is a big issue with the open access discovery services. The big issue is that a discovery service basically needs to link resolve. That is currently, I mean, there is no specific organization which takes up such a big work. I'm just going through my slides to see whether I saw any of the open access. Okay, the resource manager. Okay, let me get back to you with the discovery services. The reason why I opted for a commercial discovery services mainly because there were not many good discovery services. Not many good discovery services. I'm going to go back to my slides to see whether I have a note of anything. WorldCat is again a subscription-based one. TDNet is specifically for a particular set of people like STM. So I don't remember seeing a discovery system, though Primo tried once and COFTS tried once, but most of them are big failures. Maintaining it was a big problem, so it is not possible. So instead, what we have open source or the community-based knowledge bases, which can be simply taken and which can be converted into a very nice discovery service.
Can I?
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Sir, someone is asking to suggest some simple ways to make e-resources accessible to users through some single interface in absence of any discovery services.
There are actually a lot of initiatives taken in that thing. What is happening is that if we have to make a discovery service, we need to have the interface needs to have a uniform kind of search parameters. Okay. Again, we have to look into open source. I know that in my article sometime back, I had provided a number of open source discovery services, but unfortunately it is outdated now. Most of them are not up to date, and some of them have failed mainly because it is not possible to maintain those things. Okay, so simple interface to combine more than one database as a discovery service. Okay. There are a lot of initiatives which are being taken even by, I think even OCLC at one point was trying to provide some tools to integrate yours. The main problem is that the exhaustive list of databases available in this world. Okay. So it is a difficult job, but some initiatives are being taken, but there is no comprehensive tool to do that kind of work.
So the next is how we can identify which one is commercial e-resource and open source e-resource. Open e-resource.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, come again. I'm sorry.
The question is related to identification about the commercial electronic resources and open access electronic resources. So they just wanted to know how to identify it.
No. I mean, as I told you, I mean, any publisher any publisher will be providing those information very openly. You always have list of open access initiatives from the Sherpa list, or you have, now the real problem is not identifying open access and closed access, because you know that the once it's been priced, you know that it is, and the license agreements and all those things stipulate whether it's an open access or as a closed access. The real challenge is to find the combination of these things in a database. For example, if you take Springer has got its own combination in the same database. That is the problem we have. So identifying an open access and closed access is very, very simple, because you look at the license, you look at if the license is a Creative Commons, or if the license stipulates that it is an open access, then it is an open access, that's all. The problem is when you have a hybrid kind of a database, which has got a paid model as well as an open access model built both side by side into it. That is the one which you will be finding it very difficult, because they have certain kind of restrictions on when it becomes open and when it becomes closed. For example, some of these the gold and the models, they say that it is closed access for the 12-month period, and then after it becomes an open access. So those are the models which are going to be a problem. Other than that, finding an open access, you just go through the license, it will tell you whether it's an open access or a paid model.
So the next one is, which are the reputed e-journals in India? Someone is asking.
I'm sorry, I even wanted to ask from you, by now we should be having an A to Z list of serials in India. And that should provide the answer for what you asked.
I think
Dr. Sriram, do you remember?
Yes, there are some individual people who have compiled the list of journals which have been being published from India, and some individual publishers also coming up in, like Indian Citation Index is one of the database which has given a comprehensive list of indexing of Indian journals in terms of it is based on the parameter of indexing of Web of Science. So the initiatives are going on, but now Indian Citation Index has become a commercial venture. So I think we should, or some agency should come forward to make it something which is become open accessible to each other. So otherwise, most of the journals published from India are open access. Not only in library science, but different other subjects as well.
You see the potential for research and potential for such collaborative projects exist always. I mean, like, this is one of the things I was thinking when I was preparing for the ERM lecture. I was thinking, what is the comprehensive A to Z list which is available for Indian journals? And either commercially or open access, I don't see that we have ventured to completely document them. Am I right? That's mainly because of the proliferation of newer open access models, which in the past 10 or 15 years. And that may be one of the reasons why we are not able to keep track of most of the electronic resources which are published in the country.
Maybe Dr. Sriram take a lead because he is associated with academics, so he can take a project for a research work and try to compile a comprehensive database of Indian.
Yeah, it is very good idea.
It's good idea for you.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you also.
Any other question, madam?
Yes, sir. The question is, can you explain Hadoop related big data? Hadoop.
I'm sorry, come again?
Hadoop. It's
Hadoop.
Hadoop is a language for big data analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain Hadoop related big data. So will you answer it?
It is not something I can answer even that Hadoop is, directly it is not related to ERM. It is associated with big data analytics. It is a language, the query, building the queries and getting information fetched, getting information extracted from the database, the complex data set and heterogeneous database.
The next is, can we request e-journal vendors about generating user statistics on our own?
Yes, actually, just as as I finished the second session of Dr. Sanjay, and in between the 1 hour, that's what I was doing. A lot of new things are again coming in the user statistics. I'm happy to share this because I was doing it just an hour back. Gone are those days when we started asking the publishers for the statistics. Now, what happens is the next stage in the electronic resource management, this maybe I will present it in my next thing, is the comparative analysis of electronic resource management, electronic resource usage. Now, I have subscribed to a new service from ESSCO, where I have requested them to take note of all the electronic resource I use, and I asked them to provide a comprehensive analytic report. So, I mean, gone are those days when we started talking about simply statistics. No, now we have gone a step ahead to tell or analyze these into a more meaningful, more managerial, more management-based kind of metrics. So basically what they will be doing is they will be doing hours of work which I will be doing. Earlier, I used to request the publisher for the statistics, or they have given me user ID and password. So I will go and download the counterfeit statistics. Then I will put it in Excel and I will do all sorts of analytics and I will come out with an answer. But now I tell my vendor that I'm subscribing to 8 databases and I want you to analyze these 8 databases and give it to me. So they use all the management related tools and do the analysis for me, and they give it to me. And these services are coming out like anything. So this is the next stage of electronic resource management. So as we are one step, as we take one step towards electronic resource management, in the Western world, they have gone 2 steps ahead of us. They have done a lot of these analytics and all those things. They have put them together. So it is possible, yes. We can request the publishers, or we can also request the publisher to give us the the admin user ID, which can allow you to download the statistics.
So thank you so much. Due to time constraint and all, we will not able to take more queries. And once again, thank you so much for enlightening us, and it was simply a breathtaking. Now I request Mr. Hussain to present our talk. Mr.
Thank you,
Hussain.
sir. Hope I am audible, sir.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you, Sriram Pandey, sir. On behalf of the Program Organizing Committee and my own behalf, I would like to thank our guest speaker from South Africa, Dr. John Paul Abuke, sir, for his valuable time and gracing the occasion with an insightful thought on electronic resources management in library and information centers. Sir, you have pointed out each and every aspect of electronic resources management, and you have given a detailed views on ERMS. Beginning from the journey of library and how it's pay out the tablet to the electronic resources, and what are the ERM life cycle and ERM workflow in details views, and you have pointed out how to acquire ERMS and how to evaluate and how to manage all the ERMs. Sir, I am sure that the contents will be useful to all of us, I would like to thank our moderator, Dr. Sriram Pandey sir, for his time and moderated the session tactfully and conducted the session smoothly. I'd also like to thank Ms. Vinas Khanna for taking up the questions minutely and solving the questions of the participants. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all the participants for patience hearing. Thank you all. Thanks once again.
So thank you, Abuzar. Thank you, Dr. Sriram, and thank you, Dr. John Paul Anbu. And thanks to each and everyone. Thank you all the library staff. So we are at the end of the closing this meeting. So before I close, just quick remind about the third day. So tomorrow we are going to have three very important session. One of the session will be going to be morning session will be going to delivered by Dr. Sriram Pandey himself at 10 a.m. So I request everyone to join by 9:50 morning, so that the topic he is going to take up is the search strategy and information retrieval for effective research. The search strategy and techniques for effective information retrieval. That is actually very, very important, how we are going to conduct a search, what kind of software tools you can going to use for automatic retrieval of data from Google Scholar or any other tools. So this is actually going to be a very nice session for all of us. And thereafter, Dr. Jagtar Singh is going to deliver a session on research information literacy. That is another very, very classic session. It is going to be important for us as well, because as a researcher or as a librarian, we must be aware about what kind of information is available to us and how to become information literate about different sources of information, so that it is going to help us in research activity. And the third session, again, it is going to be very important on different topic which is related to data analytics and visualization tool. That is going to be taken by Dr. Rudra Rameshwar. So these three sessions are tomorrow's sessions are very, very important, and so that it is going to be important for each and every one of us. So at this with this note, I would like to thanks once again each and everyone. So still people have some queries about the questionnaires, about the feedback. So please, once again, I remind you that questionnaires will be the questionnaire will be available at the end of the workshop. Feedback shall be available at the end of the workshop. And every day we are sending session link as well. So you can use old link as well, and you can also use the new link as well. Both the links are going to work for you. So in case you have any problem, immediately WhatsApp us, contact us, call us. We'll try to resolve your problem as maximum as possible. And there was another query related to some participant that they are not able to log in with the, they are not able to register. So please be sure that if you have registered to AICTE portal before 20th of October, those participants only able to log in and get email from us, because there is a limitation on from AICTE. So we are just whoever have been approved on AICTE portal, those people only can can get email from us and use this platform for accessing the webinars series. And there is one more query about the connectivity. So please be sure that almost 150 participants have not have any complaint about the connectivity or link or any other things. So I request everyone, before you logged into the system, please check your speakers, mic, mobile data, or any other technical glitch associated with your instrument, all these things. I think you will be able to solve problem. Still, if you have a problem, do remind us. We will try to check at our end, and we will try to solve your problem if possible from our side. So thank you once again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. John Paul Anbu. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. Thank you, Dr. Sriram Pandey. Thank you, all the library staff, Dr. Harsing, Venus. I have to take 15, 16 names who are on the platform, Saranjit, Rakesh, and Bhupinder, Abujar, everyone, Mandeep. So thank you, everyone. Thank you once again. So let's meet tomorrow, 9:50 a.m. sharp. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.